Let's make sure these cameras are rolling nice and bright, boys. Today we got a good video for you guys because, man, I'm gonna tell you guys one thing, bro. As you grow up, you're gonna mature, you're gonna see things, right? You're gonna see things that people did right with their lives, and you're gonna see things that people did wrong with their lives. And you're gonna see what it is you wanna do with your life and what you don't wanna do with your life, right? I think we're all kind of grown and intuitively developed to hopefully be at that point in our lives to understand, hey, you know, we gotta avoid doing certain things and we gotta practice doing others. So I've always wanted to establish this channel to be able to provide as much advice as possible to, you know, my younger self or just any other individual that maybe doesn't have that form of guidance, that form of, you know, resources to maybe think differently or put themselves in other kind of paradigms, right? So that's why I made this channel, because it doesn't take a genius to see that there's 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, you know, 26, 29-year-olds, 50-year-olds that are still making some of these repetitive mistakes in maybe some very negative financial, emotional, I don't know, physical situation, right? And it's all due to either bad habits or bad spending habits or just behaviors, or I guess you can say acts that they've repeated across their lifetime, right? We see it. There's, you know, me, myself, my partner always kind of reminds me of this stuff because she works in healthcare. So she's always telling me about these, I guess, patients that come in, you know, hooked on drugs, they're drug seeking, they're, you know, always withdrawing. So I hear these stories and I remind myself of, you know, despite my environment, my world not being like that anymore, her input allows me to kind of visualize or just understand or be more conscious of how drastically things are kind of out here. You know, they're maybe not in the best situation. So sharing a piece of advice for maybe that person that doesn't know you but has to hear it, it could potentially help change someone's story or help people see you as a form of guidance to help, right? And that's what I believe in. Like, if you see someone doing something bad or you see someone, you know, struggling, like, it's always good to help, be a good person in this life. So I know how difficult it was for me growing up to have someone to guide me, console me, give me advice. You know, I grew up without a father, a single mom. I had no older brothers, no older sisters. A lot of my family is, you know, first generation Americans. All my grandparents are immigrants, and they themselves grew up in certain environments like LA, you know, not necessarily the most economically inclined, most educated, most business savvy individuals. You know, they come from just hard work, and, you know, they spend a lot of their time doing, or their youth, you know, doing a lot of the things that young people do. So there weren't any necessarily, they help on, I guess, morality. They help on, you know, how to treat others, how to be a good person, correct? Like, I always appreciate my family for cultivating that in my, you know, my character and teaching me how to just be always kind and helpful to others. I love that was cultivated in me by my mother. But in terms of navigating life to provide for yourself independently, economically, more importantly, right? Because so much of, you know, independent adult life is about your economic position. You know, how economically inclined are you? For those of you guys that might not know what economically means, it's just money. You know, how much money do you have to afford a nicer place to live, a nicer car to drive, provide more for your family? And these are just some key components that come behind your economic situation. Now, a lot of times when we're young, we're kind of limited to these economic resources, meaning that we always are kind of taught as young adults to work hard, save your money, work hard, save your money. And of course, as young adults, we always want to enjoy a little something. You know, we either want to buy a brand new phone, a brand new car, or just any other hobbies. You know, we always often run into things that we want to buy that want to give us some sort of gratification for our hard work, right? But a lot of times we're not told the sacrifice it takes to be able to achieve such things in our lifetime. You know, especially like becoming a homeowner, you know, getting married. Like, a marriage for sure isn't cheap, but, you know, getting married, raising a family, like, all this comes with its own given cost now, and it's significantly higher than what it was when our parents or grandparents were coming up. So no one's really talking or teaching how to adapt to such gap in wealth that it takes to just achieve what many call just the American dream. So I noticed this. I myself don't have it. So I've learned a little bit. I've gotten myself to the situation to the point where I am living here independently in a beautiful apartment complex that honestly I never expected my life to be at when I was just young, misguided, misspending my youth. So hey, like, I know a thing or two, so I want to share it with you. And that's kind of how I wanted to kind of guide this, I guess, video, to be able to kind of demonstrate that, hey man, like, maybe it's very difficult to put yourselves around smarter people or individuals that have, you know, that independent, I guess, lifestyle established for themselves. Because to not work for anyone, to still have, you know, nice things, live free, provide for your family, and still prepare for your retirement, and also have a business operating that makes you fulfilled and happy, not just makes you money, like, it takes a lot. Like, for me, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't, this didn't just come to me. This didn't just come to me when I was 17 and I woke up 23, figured it all out. Like, I tried a bunch of things, I failed at a bunch of things, and I just never gave up. And I started learning myself better, right? Like, I learned that I had a huge desire for, you know, for sure providing for myself economically. Being a supercar enthusiast, bro, it wakes you up. You know, I really love vehicles, especially these supercar vehicles, bro, hypercar vehicles. You know, you have the Bugatti Lavatore, that thing's in like probably what, 20 million. You have a Ferrari Enzo, those things are another 20 million. Pagani Huayranas, probably like around 3-4 million. McLaren Senna's maybe like 2.5-3 million, you know, on just a car. Like, just to bring these examples to you, right? Yeah, people that own Gulfstreams, almost what, $200 million jet, $100 million jets. You know, people own hotel chains, people own apartment buildings, people own cruise ships, people own your local In-N-Outs, your local Costco's. Like, so many different businesses and I guess different parts of wealth are constantly put in front of us that, you know, hey, unfortunately, when you're given in a certain environment, programmed to think a certain way, you never see it, and it's difficult to adapt to it, right? Or be conscious of it, that there's so much of that, I guess, opportunity and ability for us to be able to take advantage of those resources and make something for ourselves. Put us in that position to hopefully achieve 3 million on a car without stressing it, right? And that's, wow, in my environments, you come to where the people I grew up, you tell me you spend 3 million on a car, they're gonna call you stupid, they're gonna get all over you. But little do you know that that $3 million car is nothing compared to your net worth, which approximately could be 250 million, not even 10%. So think about it through that lens, and then it's like, oh shit, like, money's real, there's so much of it, but how do we get there? So of course, me being so young and not as loaded with resources, I don't have the answer to it just yet. But I figured enough out to probably get the wheels turning, especially if I sit and compare myself to the other younger people in my environments or just my own family, you know? It's hard to see these developmental, this independent desire, right, to provide for yourselves. And, you know, unfortunately, like, conventional wisdom does teach, you know, go to school, get a job, save, you know, never really hear invest too often, at least from where I'm from. And I kind of spotted that, and that's where I was like, yo, like, it's unfortunate, because the truth is, like, not all of us are born with that business idea or that maybe ambition at first, or, you know, maybe we get beat up by economic difficulties early on in our adulthood and it kind of discourages us from taking risk, or maybe we're put in just we have some odds stacked against us where, hey, our mind is too cluttered with thinking about our car note, our bills, our car insurance, our phone bills, our kids, our girlfriends, and all of this kind of gets cluttered up to where we can't think creatively to learn how to make more money. So different reasons why people kind of get caught in that cycle of just repeating a job. And I mean, it's a little bit primal, isn't it? Like, you give an individual money, you give an individual home, you give an individual food, you give an individual car, and you know, little things that they need to get around and stay occupied. Sometimes we adapt to that and we stay there for so long until we're either presented with some sort of obstacle in our lives or some sort of uncomfortable that disrupts that environment, and then we have to adapt to either create a new one or go down to a lower one. And a lot of times people, you know, don't know how to adapt, at least in my analysis of younger behavior of the people in my environment, right? So I've been through some really shitty economic situations too, so I know a little bit about navigating these, you know, and I have a lot of videos that I have to share with this, you know, YouTube channel to kind of build a little bit more context behind myself so you guys understand, like, yo, this kid has actually been through some stuff, and I know how to kind of deal with it mentally, which is, I believe, more importantly than, like, the skill set that, I guess, the doing part, right? Like, having to knowing what to do and doing it is a little bit, yes, challenging if you don't have it, but realistically, the real hard part is the mental. Because, like, you know, me and my entrepreneurial journal haven't really made the video yet, but I did lose plus $150,000 before I was 23 years old. So I was like, I've been exposed to losses like that most people my age have never even made. So I see the difference in my performance. Of course, no one's happy to say they lost 150K, which me, myself, not necessarily the proudest, but hey, shit happened, so that's life, you know? I'm not going to sit and cry about it or nag about it how majority of other people will. It's just, hey, you're on the entrepreneurial journey. You're taking more risks to create more opportunity than the average individual is at a faster pace. You're immature. You're not as experienced. You will make mistakes, and that's the unfortunate truth. But it's better to learn how to make these mistakes at 23 than it is to learn how to make them at 40. And that's why I tell you guys, like, jumping into this environment early, exposing yourself to the economic stresses, the financial stresses, the mental stresses, the emotional stresses that come with navigating life at an early age will make you a more resilient, a more adaptable individual when you're presented with economic or just any hardships in life. And unfortunately, a lot of our environments, especially, you know, Hispanic parents in my culture, our parents are always doing our best to protect us, to keep us safe, to set us up on a golden path where stress and struggles that they went through, we don't. But that's the unfortunate reality, because it's not always going to happen like that. Whether they pass before us or something happens and they're no longer able to provide for us economically or resourcefully, it's very independent as an individual. You learn how to do it for yourself. So that journey is not easy, especially when you're surrounded with a bunch of people that aren't necessarily thinking about that, because they themselves have those resources provided to them and they haven't been disrupted. So I myself realized that at 17 years old, being homeless, you know, I was disrupted. I had a home at 16, 15, 13, 14, and 12, but once I turned 18, well, late 17, I had an economic, I was presented, you know, with an economic difficulty. I had no job, but I had friends that were able to let me sleep on their couches, and I navigated going from sleeping on someone's couches to now independent living in my own 2-bedroom apartment, which isn't necessarily the greatest of achievements, but damn, you know, the fact that I had no guidance, no mentorship, no like any help, right? No real handouts, no silver platter handed to me. Damn, it might not be $1 million story. It might not be my journey to a Lambo. It might not be my journey to 100 million, but for one, it might not mean shit to anyone else, but to me, holy fuck, like, I don't blame myself. I could have gotten way more done in such a huge amount of time, but I guess that's the unconsciousness part, right? That's the environmental part. That's the people you surround yourself, the network part. That sometimes, hey, us being limited, not exposed to certain things, we move slower than others. And if people don't come and tell us or give us that advice or that desire to really help us, it's very hard for us to grab onto it and move quicker. But me being conscious of all of my mistakes and what it's taken me to get here and how quickly I've been able to, I guess, I wouldn't say quickly, right? Of course, I think for my age, like, yeah, there's this negative notion in my head that kind of makes me think that because I'm doing better than most people I went to high school with or my age, that it's okay. But then realistically, like, the other side is like hyper competitive, not necessarily the competitive towards the egoistical approach, but just the understanding that there's potential for more. So that's very challenging because there's always the comfort, hey, you're doing good, but then there's always the, hey, you could be doing better. And that mind frame, I feel like, man, I've constantly found myself trying to accomplish what 30, 40-year-olds are doing and building a family, establishing a home. But realistically, the other side of me has like understood that that can come with more economic security of having a nicer home, providing more for that family if I sacrifice my youth and really do focus on becoming better economically, business-wise, or just as a machine to, you know, adapt to different circumstances than what I was programmed to think, which many is just told, go to school, save, work, and just, you know, buy your home and that's it. So it's unfortunate, right? But hey, like, that's why I make this video, because there's different ways of thinking that give you different results. And realistically, you have to come and understand how you work mentally a little bit. And I've caught in this pattern myself, so maybe you guys haven't been necessarily too aware of it to the fullest extent, but you might catch on to it now that I mention it. So how you think impacts how you feel impacts what you do. You know, a lot of people act on emotions, but those emotions are fueled by thoughts. So a lot of times, like I mentioned in my last video, thoughts that I had about what I could get done or what I could become were very limiting due to my environment and what I seen around me. But when I switched my environment, somehow those thoughts were now reorganized. Let me explain this to you. So when I was surrounded with a bunch of friends that were 19, 18-year-old that didn't come from rich families, didn't come from the most wealthiest, most educated, and most well-established families, they were trying to distract themselves with going to parties, you know, just like trying to go have dinner all the time. Maybe like, I don't know, some would like have like just hey, like going to play soccer. Of course, these are all great events that we enjoy as a childhood, but to establish us economically or really build some sort of, hey, short-term sacrifice in our early youth to take care of maybe ourselves later on a lot sooner, they didn't align. So when I was in this environment, I was very prone to, yes, going to concerts, yes, going out to, you know, have some drinks late night, going out to, you know, just doing what young people do, right? But when I was surrounded with other individuals that, hey, were investing, trading, making 5,000, 10,000, sales guys that are making 20, 30,000 a month in solar, when I was in the environment of, you know, my buddy Jordan calling me, telling me he just, you know, worked with a client that, hey, has like around $700 million net worth that his fathers and his grandfathers have been passing down to him. And he's, you know, over here playing on he has a $100K piano in his living room with maybe a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 pool table, with maybe a fucking $40 million mansion on Newport looking at the shore. It's like, whoa, two different environments that black and white impact how I think, more importantly, how I feel, and then how I think, and that's how I rearrange the differences of environments on impacts and how I thought and how I, you know, do. And oftentimes you guys will have the same scenario, but maybe you're just not conscious of it to the fullest extent, because not all of us get presented with that better. Not all of us have that resource or that network to help us think about better. And we get conformed. As humans, we learn to adapt and survive, not necessarily to evolve and thrive. Evolve and thrive comes with disruptions and diversity, but if there is no disruptions and no diversity, you're going to adapt and you're going to survive, and you're going to stay where you're at until it happens. And then if you adapt, or if you are presented with diversity and then you evolve and you overcome it, you will move up. But some people get presented with diversity or challenges and obstacles, and they actually go down, or they just can't handle it, and boom, I've seen countless stories like that. So I'm aware of how hard life is. Even myself have gone through it. I'm no different. But one thing is, this game doesn't end, and you got to wake up and keep on going. So how do you make it better for yourself? And it's really in learning how to control these different It's learning how to control these different environmental factors, these different mental factors that allow you to even shift your paradigm, to start approaching goals differently and start thinking about different. Unfortunately, you know, it's a lot of economics, so you do need different streams of income, you know, using that job that you're trading so much time at to, instead of buying, you know, nice cars or the new phone or some nice shirts or some nice hats or keeping up with the trends, or, you know, buying things that necessarily don't make you money. Maybe be a bit more disciplined with what God has blessed you with to have, and maybe think more creatively on how to use it to make more. And on this journey, you know, you're not going to get it right the first time. You're going to fail, but make sure you fail young. Now, let me highlight this, because this is going to be exposed to the general public. Just because you're not 23 like me doesn't mean you're not young. Just because you're 40, 50 years old does not mean you're not young. Remember, if you're 40 or 50 years old, you're still not 80. And if you're 50, you're still not 100. You're still young, maybe not as young as I, or maybe you are younger, or maybe I'm not as young as you, but we're all going to be a little bit catching this message sooner than where we would have if we never paid attention. So when I mean that, when you're young, it's always just getting started sooner. And like I said, presenting yourself with, exposing yourself to trying to create new income streams, failing, you know, trying again, coming back from those failed investments, those failed businesses, you know, just experiencing it, learning marketing, learning sales, learning communication, learning social media, learning how to express yourself. Do this all while as young as possible so you get better at it in the future. And that's what I can tell you. Like, it's just about getting started. But hey, if you can't get started because you're surrounded with the wrong people, and then those wrong people are creating you to feel the wrong things, and then think the wrong things, and then do the wrong things, hey, there's really little hope of escape or hope of changing that. So that's why I share this message on, like, really watch your environments, watch the people you hang around with, watch the things you're looking at. You know, an individual that's stuck looking at poverty, you know, drug addicts all on the street in LA, and you know, it's no real opportunity, no real shiny objects to like make them think like, wow, like, that's possible. You know, me myself, like, let me share this story with you guys. I was not rich, I was poor. You know, my mom was driving an Altima, bro, but I love hypercars. I love supercars, I love mansions. It just was like fascinating to me to think that that was even a possibility. Of course, no one in my family was ever capable of achieving that, but I just was like, wow, like, it's real, it's possible. So in high school, I used to ditch high school and I used to just go look at exotic cars. There's an exotic car dealership over here in Upland. Man, I forgot their name. But long story short, you go in there, GTRs, Lamborghini Aventadors, Spider Ferraris, you had McLarens, you had Rolls Royce Cullinans, a little bit of Lotuses, like brand new Teslas. It was like, of course, it's not an exotic vehicle. You know, you had some GT3s in there. It was a diversity of supercars. And I'd just be like, holy, how do we get this? How does this work? Like, how do I go from a puny, uneducated, young bull trying to make a GT3 RS, a Lamborghini Aventador, SV, SVJ? Like, how do I go from zero to like, yo, I'm in this and it doesn't cost me an arm and leg, we're doing it? Extremely hard realization, but as a young adult, I would always go see these houses and see this, and putting myself in that environment made my mind think differently. And with my mind thinking differently, I began to do differently. I started learning that maybe $20, $30, $40 an hour that I was getting paid, and that hour, somehow, some way, I could have made more money. Or in that month, or in that week, start small, I could have made more money. In those 2 weeks, I could have made more money. In that 1 month, I could have made more money. But the question was, how? And that's when I kept asking myself, and I tried different business models, different avenues of income to find the answer to what it is I was looking for. And at 23 years old, you know, I'm not going to say that this is the golden ticket to success, because realistically, you need a business model for cash flow despite anything, because to be a full-time trader or investor, you need capital, because you will lose money. So you need to have another source of income, some streams of income to be able to help provide for your, hey, unfortunate mistakes that will happen across your career as a trader. So I, had to also say that, hey, I've been through a handful of like sales jobs, small businesses that I created, but I found which ones I liked, I found which ones I didn't. But I can for sure tell you that investing in trading is like a very, very good vehicle to take your cash flow from your business or your cash flow from your job after your expenses and grow that into so much more. But now if you have the business model and the cash flow income, either from a job or just something more sustainable that's always recurring, I guess, fixed income, more importantly, I think we should call it that. If you have a fixed income and then you have your business to provide you that up and down fluctuating income, and you are able to clear your expenses by 2 times, the extra income, investing it in the markets or trading with it is a very lucrative way of turning it into more if you don't have that other stepping stone of maybe another business idea or another investment opportunity. Learning how to trade and invest ultimately took my experience as a business owner, small operator, to being able to scale that money lucratively. And then now, with my experience of winning and losing lucratively, I was able to now share my knowledge and experiences with other people, therefore creating the new business that I now found a full passion for at 23 years old, which is SoCal Trading Group, where, I teach people how to perceive markets, how to take investing slow and easy, because realistically, a lot of people have the capability of exposing themselves to markets, but they don't because of the fear and the lack of knowledge and that, I guess, negative kind of paradigm or negative narrative that's behind it, that, oh, it's a gambling, you're going to lose your money. And don't get me wrong, like, anything having to do with money, human nature is going to come in, and you are going to get greedy, you are going to get, hopeful. But that's human nature, that's psyche against money. We're always going to feel a type of way around this, and we're always going to react to very common reactions, because it's an economic resource that we all need to survive, we all need to eat, we all need to live, and we all need to provide. So there's going to be emotions that, yes, of course, are very repetitive and common. If we all put ourselves in a room with 10 people and we start losing a lot, we're going to feel a certain way. If we start winning a lot, we're going to feel a certain way. But there's little differences in each individual that, hey, some people go very hard at first, get good results, and then lose and completely stop. Or some people get bad results and then keep on going, and they get very good results and then keep on going and succeed. Some people get good results and then lose, and then good results and then give up. So many people have different experiences, but the goal here is to just never stop. And sometimes to not never stop, you need someone there to coach you as to when to expose more risk, more capital to the risk, when to deploy certain amount of capitals in percentage wise. If you have a full portfolio of 100%, hey, maybe invest just 3% or 5% of your portfolio here in this sector, as certain cyclicals or certain current market events are going to make this sector more profitable than others. So minimize the risk on this, or maybe increase the risk on this exposure to this sector during this cyclical or this economic event because of the projected growth. Long story short, a lot of different approaches to keep people in that investing game despite maybe facing some losses or continuing to learn. So when you're in these environments, like I mentioned, that are young, people not choosing to be independent, people not adapting to how the world's working or what the possibilities are, being able to coach someone, adapt their mindset, and push them to what it is I'm seeing and I'm experiencing at a young adult, it's a blessing of mine. And holy crap, there's a lot out here, guys. There's a lot out here that will mind blow you, bro. Trips you out 100%. I never look at a day the same ever again, because Jesus Christ, I know, bro, there's so much to do. And despite our environments making us feel limited, or, you know, our resources sometimes making us feel limited, you have to know how to override it and continue going to grow, to progress. Because without it, bro, Darwinism, process of elimination, bro, you're up next. It's natural selection, homie. If you don't adapt and survive, you will... it's over. It's literally, it's very difficult, bro, to achieve the dreams. It's very difficult to achieve the dreams we desire without the resources or how to get there. But if you don't have that rich uncle, you don't have those rich parents, you don't have those rich friends, you don't have those rich mentors, bro, you can't just give up and call it game. You got to buckle down and figure it out and make enough noise, make enough, like, prove yourself enough for these guys to maybe in better positions want to help you out or team up with you. And that's what I've seen. Like, wow, starting SoCal Training Group, I've been able to meet my brother Patty, bro. This guy's lost 1.2 million playing poker. You think he's depressed and lost in a homeless shelter? Nope. He's strong. Still's got 3 kids, healthy, beautiful man, bro. But he's got his mind, his mental there. He's been through those economic losses. He's a great friend of mine, you know. I have my, like, and I wouldn't call him a good friend, but this acquaintance of mine currently, you know, kind of a prospect of a client, Jay. Like, this guy's very humble, very settled, man. But the dude has a Pagani Horiana. How the hell was I ever going to stumble across someone like that? You know, if I would have been that 17, 18-year-old that just stuck to working jobs. Like, I exposed myself to social media. I proved myself countless times. I built a platform. I've made connections. I've expressed, I've taught, I've helped, I've clarified certain things for certain people. And I've gotten myself in doors that I never would have, that have opened up my eyes like they never would have. And a Pagani Horiana, bro, that's like a $3 million car. Like, how do you own a $3 million car? Like, it's just a car. 3 mil? Like, bro, that's like my family tree's, like, total net value, net worth. Even like existential income. I'm serious. Like, it's sad as sad as it is. That's the reality of my life, bro. Not this fucking nepotism baby that was spawned into this world with 10 mil. Like, unfortunately, it would have been nice, but hey, it's the journey we're in, bro. You can't just, oh well, I didn't get a good start, let me just go ahead and give up. You can't do that, bro. You got to keep on going, bud. So, you know, always push yourself. Surround yourself with people that are going to get you in that environment, you know, when you take these losses, yeah, pick you back up and get you in the game, man. You know, real friends in this life, remember, are the ones that you're going to be able to make money with, and the ones that are going to be able to help you make money. You gotta either be making money with them, or they gotta be able to help you make some more money. Those are real friends out here. Of course, you know, all my friends that I call my real friends have not been able to provide for me economically or teach me how to make money, but they for sure have been able to help me with the resources to put a roof over my head when I was, you know, completely down in the dump, homeless at 17. So those are the people I consider my real friends. But now, like, if we're making money together, that's another, you know, that's where I start drawing the line as like real friends right there, because we all know what it takes out here. It's not easy, bro. Despite how I might illustrate or articulate this life and how it is perceived by me, it's nowhere near easy to understand, decipher all by yourself in these environments that are literally with all the odds stacked against you. Nowhere near easy, but there's a way around it. And shit, it takes a shitload of time, a shitload of introspection, a shitload of consciousness, a shitload of mental development. But damn, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's impossible. So that's why I share this with you guys. You know, at the end of the day, watch your environments, because your environments are going to impact how you feel, and then your feelings impact how you think, and then your thoughts impact what you do. So be wise out here, you know, and man, surround yourself with people that are really out here to help you, because it's hard as it is. So, you know, people that are just making it worse, you gotta know how to identify them and keep it pushing forward. But I did want to make this video and hopefully share it with you guys, and hope all you guys enjoyed it. Jerry Trades with SoCal Trading Group, man. Over and out.